Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome back, my dear brothers and sisters. In this episode, we will be talking about this guy called godLogic. To be honest, I will not be calling him godLogic because I don't see any logic in his thinking and reasoning. Earlier on, this guy said he prefers to live in turmoil and truth rather than living in peace and falsehood. Let's watch and react to what he's saying. Bismillah.
But there's one little thing I want to correct on the perspective, because it's not that this man is God, Grayson. It's not that this man is God. It's that God became man. It's not the other way around. We believe that God took on flesh. He came down, left his throne to walk amongst us and redeem us and reconcile us to himself. It's God who became man, took on flesh, not a man who we think is God.
And the proof of that goes,
Okay, as you have heard clearly, he's saying that God became a man. They don't believe in a man becoming God. They are believing that God becoming a man. This child will be born, and this child is God. So since the birth, Jesus is God. So therefore, when Jesus was feeling hungry, that it's God feeling hungry, and you cannot escape it because it is God became a man. So that person walking, he's God, and God becoming hungry. No Christian will come and tell me that this godLogic person will say that no, when he was hungry he was a man. No, you yourself said that is God becoming a man. That person walking is God feeling hungry, getting tired, cursing a woman, etc. Let's continue.
You're claiming that the proof of that is because he claimed to be God and then he rose from the dead. He said he was going to rise from the dead, and then you're saying he did.
Yep. But it's not just that he said it, though. He even has the testimonies of the prophets that say he's God. The prophets before Jesus comes.
Okay, let's pause here and talk a little bit about this. So that's guy again, that's man again, who died, that is God dying. Don't tell me that's, no, he died as a man. No, because that man is God. He came on down to earth in human flesh. So God died. You cannot escape it. Let's continue.
They tell us God is coming, guys. God is going to come.
In human form?
Yes, in the flesh. For example, let me show you. Let me show you, bro.
Because I've always heard that my whole life, that God, the whole Bible points to Jesus coming. I'm like, okay, for years. And I had studied the New Testament for years. Yeah. So I hadn't necessarily studied the Old Testament in depth. And actually this was a video on my channel where I read the Bible in one sitting. I actually slept during it. So I 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and on the 4th day I finished it. The only thing I did was sleep and read. And when I read it in one sitting, I was like, wait, it's not all pointing to God. Like, there's a few, but I had always been told that. So I'd like to see what verse you pull up. Yeah. I know there's a few verses, but it just didn't seem that clear that God is coming in human form.
Let me show you, man. Let me show you, man. What we doing?
You're funny.
Look, I was just waiting on you to say that. That's all.
It's godLogic.
There you go. So this is Isaiah, brother. This is Isaiah chapter 9, okay? And so what we're going to look at verse 6 and 7. So it says...
But this is in Isaiah.
Yep, this is Isaiah. This is 700 years before Jesus is born. 700 years before he comes. This is what it says.
So here, he opens the Old Testament, and he himself has said that this is 700 years before Jesus was born. And he's bragging about it in a stupid way without realizing it. Or either he realizes it, but he's lying deliberately. 700 years ago, before Jesus was born, they were Jews. And in the Old Testament, Jews read this verse and they never say that Jesus is God. And basically Jews, they don't attribute this to Jesus. They say a man will come. It can be Jesus, he can be another person, he can be a king, right? But Jews, they never believed that this verse is speaking about God coming down to earth as a man, or that's new child who will be born is God. No Jew believed that. No one, like 1,000 years after, right? People will start writing about it and claiming and making up a theology about it. If you ask any Jew today, what do you believe about this verse? They will say, no, we don't believe that this person who's coming is God. He is a man who will be ruling, and he will be sitting on the throne of David, and he will bring justice and peace to the Israelites. And the titles, Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, they are just terms and attributes of endearment to that person, because that person will be a God-fearing person. He will be doing the God's work on earth. He will be obeying God. He will be a servant of God. Let's continue.
For to us a child is born, to us a son is given. So a human's coming, right? A human's going to be born, right? Now what does it tell us? And the government shall be upon his shoulder. His name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. So this verse just told us that the mighty God, the Father of eternity, is about to come and be born as a boy.
Okay.
Pretty explicit, right?
Yes. How do we confirm who it is?
Oh man, you just got a bunch of good questions, don't you?
Hey, I'm trying to learn. Let's go.
Let's pause here in reply to what he said. As you guys have heard him, he said that this child will be born, this child will be given, right? And this child will be called Wonderful Counselor and Mighty God and Prince of Peace, Everlasting Father, and all those sweet titles, right? But this is not the truth. This is actually a lie. He just lied. And we will debunk this lie right here, right now. This verse, as I have mentioned earlier, is 700 years before the birth of Jesus. And this text is for the Jews. Let's now read the context of this verse and see the truth about it. Okay, now we will read this. Let me zoom in a little bit. Okay, now in Isaiah 9:6 is a well-known verse from the Hebrew Bible, often cited in both Jewish and Christian traditions. Here is the context of the verse. Context in the book of Isaiah. Isaiah 9:6 is a part of a larger passage, Isaiah 9 from 1 to 7, that conveys a message of hope to the people of Israel who were facing dark and challenging times. The prophet Isaiah is addressing the situation in Israel, which at the time was plagued by warfare, political turmoil, and fear of foreign invasion, particularly from the Assyrians. The verse Isaiah 9:6, which states, "For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government shall be upon his shoulder, and his name shall be called Wonderful Counselor, Mighty God, the Everlasting Father, the Prince of Peace." Now we will read theological and historical context. A Jewish interpretation. In Judaism, the verse is understood differently. Some interpret it as referring to a future Davidic king, an ideal ruler who will bring peace and justice to Israel. Historically, it may have also referred to a contemporary figure such as King Hezekiah, who brought a period of stability to Judah. Therefore, as we have seen here, Christians, they are taking it out of the context, because the context is in the Jewish tradition, because this is a Jewish text. Do you see now? Let's continue watching.
You know how to ask questions. So let me show you.
I'm not coming here with an agenda. I'm genuinely asking. I'm ready to learn.
That's what I'm talking about. So I'm going to show you how the Bible confirms exactly.
Before continuing the video, let's ask ChatGPT what's the Jews believed about Jesus. And ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Jewish belief about Jesus vary, but the traditional Jewish perspective sees Jesus as a historical figure who was a teacher or a rabbi in the 1st century CE, but not as a Messiah or a divine figure. Here are key points about how Judaism viewed Jesus. I will not read all of this, right? I will just read the titles. He's not the Messiah. He's not divine. And they are rejecting the New Testament claims in relation to Christians, respect and dialogue. While rejecting the divinity of Jesus, many modern Jews respect the person of Jesus as a part of the Christian tradition and engage in interfaith dialogue. However, they maintain their own religion, identity, and belief. Well, they don't believe what the Christians are believing. And that's it. Here you have it. Now let's continue watching. This is what the Jews believing about Jesus. Now the Christians are coming with some sick claims.
Exactly who this is. All right, we're gonna do let's do 31 to like I don't know 35. Okay, there we go. All right, so look, so verse 7, right? So this is how you identify who this person is with these particular details, right? He's the mighty God. He's the Son who's been given to us. What does it continue to say about it? Verse 7, of the increase of his government and of peace.
Wait, we're still in Isaiah?
Yep, still in Isaiah.
Okay.
So we're doing Isaiah 9, verses 6 and 7, right?
Okay.
It gives us specific details, descriptions of this Son, this person to be born, God who's coming in the flesh, right? So it says,
this will be giving us specific details, he said. Let's read those specific details of the increase of his government and of peace. Jesus never had a government or a country or a land. There will be no end. Jesus got crucified himself on the throne of David and over his kingdom. Jesus never had a kingdom to establish it and to uphold it. Jesus never established any country, any land with justice and righteousness from this time forth and forevermore.
verse 7, of the increase of his government and of peace there will be no end, and on the throne of David and over his kingdom to establish it and uphold it with justice and with righteousness from this time forth and forevermore. The zeal of the Lord of hosts will do this.
So this is Isaiah speaking, right, about someone to come. But this claim from the Christians, from godLogic, is totally wrong. Historically, Jesus was persecuted. The followers of Jesus were persecuted. They never had a land. Jesus never ruled on earth. Now he will try to link some passages from the New Testament to these verses. And this is totally wrong again, because the writers of the New Testament, they were just writing down things from their own mind. And people came later on and they start claiming, oh, they got inspired by God, inspired by the Holy Spirit, and all those wishes and whims and desires. That's why we don't accept the New Testament or the Bible as a whole, because there is a lot of corruption in it. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to offend anyone. It is just a fact. If Christians believe that the Bible never had changed, I'm sorry for you.
What a description that we see?
Yeah, well, to be honest, I don't know what that means.
No, I showed you. I'll break it down. So it's saying that he's going to rule. He's going to rule, right? Of the increase of his government. So his government will increase. It'll start off small, but it'll increase. Right?
His government?
Yes. Right? Of the increase of his government and of peace, there will be no end.
But his government, like he's a political leader?
He'll be a leader. He will be a leader. So, this is an idea of, and I'll break this down to you in a little bit, but the two comings of the Messiah. One, he comes as a humble servant, right? A suffering servant, and I'll show you that. And then another time he comes as a ruler and a judge, a king. Okay? Revelation, you already know.
Hey, Revelation's crazy.
But, yeah. But even Jesus talked about this in the gospel. He talks about how, he came humbly, but then he says that later on you will see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with the glory of his angels, right? Judging and ruling. He calls himself the king of the day of judgment. Go figure. All right, so of his government there will be no end, right? That's important. There will be no end to his kingdom. And on the throne of David, he will sit. He'll rule on the throne of David, and there will be no end to his kingdom. All right, pretty clear? Now, let's go to Luke. I did not put Luke 31. Oh, shoot. Okay, hold on, let's fix this. All right, here it is. So who is this son? So this is Luke chapter 1, it's gospel. Starting at verse 31, it says, and behold, you will conceive in your womb and bear a son, and shall call his name Jesus. Now pay attention. He will be great, and will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord will give to him the throne of David, the throne of his father David, and he will rule over the house of Jacob forever, and of his kingdom there will be no end. Literally, this is what Isaiah 9, 6, and 7 says about the son to be born. You see that correlation?
Okay, yeah. Can I read the bottom verse again? Just a second.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll read it out loud if you don't mind.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is in Luke? What was the verse again? Okay.
Okay, let's pause here and see. So, this verse and the Bible, again, in the New Testament, is trying so hard to link the things together. And okay, Here it says he will reign over the house of Jacob forever. Jesus never did that. And of his kingdom, there will be no end. Jesus had never had a kingdom. That's alone to end. And that's it. Oh, let's ask ChatGPT again. Do Jews believe that God came down to earth? Well, I will not be reading all of this, but I will read some keywords. No, Jews do not believe that God came down to earth in the form of a human or any other physical manifestation. Judaism is an absolute monotheism. God transcends anything. They reject the incarnation. God does not physically come down to earth. And that's it. In summary, Judaism maintains a clear distinction between God and the physical world. God's presence and actions in the world are understood as non-physical and spiritual, in keeping with the belief in an all-powerful, formless deity. In conclusion, we understood that dogLogic prefers to live in turmoil and falsehood rather than living in peace and in truth. And I think with this, I'll end this video, and I hope dogLogic repents to God and he becomes a little bit, hopefully, aware of his mistakes, and he comes back to God, inshallah. And I must add one thing: if Christians believe that the verse from Isaiah is speaking about God coming down in the form of a man, just from that passage, now you should believe in the same thing. When humans were called God in the Old Testament, and angels called God in the Old Testament. Case closed. Brothers and sisters, if you want me to do more videos, try to support this channel with shares, likes, and comments. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.